Hi guys, welcome to another Coding Corner video, and in this video we're going to be carrying on with sorting out the maths program, my maths program, and we're going to start simplifying down the quiz forms. So what we're going to look at, and what we'll do as well while I'm thinking about it at the same time, is I want to get rid of that bit as well. And then what I'll do is I'll add the icons later on down the line. So I'll add the icons later on down the line. But what I want to look at is I want to take this mishmash of a form and I'm going to take this mishmash of a form and then attempt at tidying it up. But what I want to do at this point, I can move this out of the way. Okay. Unlock the controls. And then what I'll do, I'll go 1600 by 900. Just for now. And I'll do the same for the other ones as well, because I'll work all of them at the same time. And then I think I might just reduce it down to that, and then I'll rename it accordingly as well. Like that. And then that bit should go up the top. I think I might have to rebuild that. Yeah, of course. So we want now, at the same time, is, there it is. And I'll do that sort of thing off screen. Let me just redo that again. And there we are. So that's what we're looking at the moment. But what I do want to do, is I want to do the same for everything else. Obviously I want to unlock the forms as well. Pardon me. $1600 by 900. And then I'll rename that to division. Then I'll just rename it. I'll put division quiz. Oh. What's happened here? Oh, that's what's happened. And then we go back into the code. And then we'll go into the multiplication one as well. And then we'll do the same for subtract as well. And then we can ignore those for now because that error list, them two errors will just sort themselves out once I've sorted these out. So we now want to redo those 1600 by 900. We'll unlock it that way then. And then I'll just do multiplication quiz. And then I'll take the word there out of that and practical. Let's put quiz back into that. But what I will do eventually is just move everything down and then just establish all the groups. Didn't want to do that. Subtraction's the last one. 1600 by 900. And then all the quiz ones, what I'll do with those is I'll go into the code and get rid of that. Right, bear me one moment. Because this is forcing me to float. And now I just want to be able to just recompile that in the hopes that it will work. And it does. That's good. Put myself over here. And now I can feel safe at getting rid of that. But what I do want to do first off, let's come out of that. What I do want to do is now is to put these into actual groups. Reduce the 5 groups down to one, down to just the one group. And the way I'm going to look at that is this is a good job I've done the practice forms rather than the quiz forms, because the quiz forms would be very complicated if I went for that. Oh, for goodness sake. You're just going to keep floating about. Right, join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back. That was just one of my neighbours that had come up. So anyways, I was just saying at this point is, whoops, I didn't want to do that. I'm going to try and move everything, try and reduce everything down from 5 groups to one group, because I've got at the moment 5 small groups, and I want to try and, as I say, get them down to 1 if I can. And then what we do at this point is to have the answer make more sense. I'm going to do the following. I'm going to do the addition one first. Do the addition one first. That's my check answer strip. And then we'll bring up a group box. Pop it there. Put you there for now. And then that is 992 by 493. What I want to do is question bot group. Can I call it that? Yes, I can. That's good. And then I'll put them over to each one. So what I'll do now, before I do that, is make the font Sago. Sago variable text 12. And then I'll make that white, the foreground, the forecolor white. I'll have to do white smoke for now and then do white. And then we'll call that question number as such. And then with that in mind, if I just copy and paste it to everywhere else, and that should be in the same place, it is. One thing I do want to look at, just for a moment, is to put this up the top. So we want then, if I'm just going to sit, oh, for goodness sake, keeps doing that. Don't want the quiz form either because I'm getting rid of that. What I want to do, correct input number, there's that, and then go dim question number as integer. And then we'll go question group dot text equals this is This is, oh, for goodness sake, this is, you're just going to keep doing this, aren't you? Question number of 10. Let me double check. Let me check that. So you'll notice I'm going to do everything in the dish for addition. And then if it, question number of 10. Okay, well, it did something. Yeah, I didn't declare anything, so. Let's try. Question number equals 1. No, that didn't work. Probably this is going to be fun to look at. This is going to be fun to look at. Because that's what we're looking at. Let's do as 118. I just need to look at something a moment. Just need to try and remember what I put. So let me just sort that out. Join me back in a bit after this. And I'm back. And yeah, I'm just going to leave the question bit as it is. So I'm just going to just crack on with. I'm just going to crack on. Let's go crack on with sorting out the group boxes. But before what I'll do at this point, I knew that was going to happen. Keeps doing this. Do subtraction next. And then we can sort out the numbering. So we can then sort out the organising of these. So what we'll do is, rather than have the question marks in each one, I'm going to go for, that's the subtraction. I'm gonna completely reorganize this as well, so then it does a cap. So then you won't get a minus number. But for now, I'm gonna put in the first number at the top. I think we ought to make that 250. I think we better make that 350. Because what we'll do now is we'll put the plus there. And then what I want to do is to shrink them down to what the font size. We'll do Sago text, Sago variable and text, and I think we're going to make that 20. Let's undo those. And then what I want to look at is making that right aligned. Make that right aligned as well. Just want to make sure that I've got the right size. I think we might want to make that 200. Let's have a look at what 200 does. Yeah, I think 200 would be brilliant. And then we'll do 200 there as well. As such. And I think then I'll be able to move them a little bit closer. Now I can get rid of that group and that one. And then do the same here. Let's get rid of those. But the rest of them you don't need to see on screen. I'll actually do the rest of these off screen because it works in practically the same way. And then we have just having a look. We're having a momentary lapse here. Sorry about that, guys. So 20, that's 20, and that's 20 as well. And then we'll make that 20 as well. So go variable text 20. And then we will test it. And there we go. Now that, I have to say, is much more like it. That is much better than what I had before. So if you have a look, that's what I've got now. I'll come out of that. That's what I've got now compared to what I had before. That definitely works a lot better. As I said, I'm going to do the rest of them off screen. I'm just going to work on this one. I can now get rid of the answer bit. And then I'll add a menu strip to the bottom of this group box. I think I better, yeah, I'd call it check strip then in that case. I'll put that down the bottom. And then I'll make that check strip. And then I'll make that deep sky blue. And then I'll make the foreground, the foretext, white. Go check. Make that 12. And then there's the full colour. I'll have that as white. And then we'll do the same for calculator. Like so. And then I think I ought to put the question number. I'll reorganise the question number like that. I think that will go nicely. Let me double check that. I will double check that just to make sure everything fits. And it does. Couldn't resist. And then I'll move the code over to there as well. But what I do want to check is the code that. And there we are. I'll just save that. And then I'll put the question number up here. Up here. Up here. That would help because I'm not debugging. It would help if I wasn't debugging. Silly me. I'm going to make that. Do question stats. Ugh. There we go. We've done that. And I'm going to make that matching to that. The Sago 12. Sago variable. Let's keep it consistent. And then what we'll do is we'll make these 20 as well. I'm going to put current score because what I'm going to do is eventually I will re-add the points into this so you get to see what you've achieved. I'm going to make these Sago variable, Sago variable and text. Make them size 20. And then with that in mind, I can then just work with that. And then you can be rest assured that whatever I add to the addition, I'm going to do the same for the other three. But what I do need in this case is a label. So I'll reintroduce the labels. Into this as well. Do that. Score. Question label. And what's the text? What's the Sago variable? I'm going to make that 20. In fact, I think I might make that 18. and put question number, or just question, following that up with that. And then do that. 1 of 10, they're in the same place. And I'll put that, oh, hello. Now that, tell me, what do you prefer out of that? So out of that, what I've got down there, to that. I think that looks a lot more tidier, and more things will get added when as I progress on, more things will get added. But the next thing I do want to do when I'm sorting this stuff out is getting rid of the message boxes. Getting rid of the message boxes. So this one needs to be disabled. Because then we've got the check. We've got the check there. And then what I can do then at this point is do calculator. Oh, for goodness sake, I knew that was going to happen. Keeps doing that. Calculator. And then what I want to do is get rid of that, which then gets rid of that as well. And then check the form. There are no issues found, so let's debug this. There were errors. Let's have a look. Ah, there we go. I think I ought to just... I get to see that. So what we'll do now in this case, we'll get rid of that. Pardon me. And then all you need to do is just change those. As such. We'll click start. We'll debug again. Because now I have got no issues. And then let's go 78. I'm just going to make up something random. And then we'll try again. So we go, it'll be 165. And yeah, that needs to be wider now because calculator. That's not a problem. That needs to be widened out slightly. See if we can make these 250. Oh, that was perfectly measured. They were perfectly measured. And then I'll make that right aligned. Good thing with the group box is that everything that is in that group box moves along with it. There we go. Make it consistent. And then we'll try that again. I'm just going to do something completely random. There we go. Now the calculator bit's still there. And that then does that as well. And then the good thing with that is you can then do your other bits as well, like the scores and what have not. So that's taken care of. I'm going to shrink that down. And that is what it looks like. I'm going to do the other three off screen. So then, because you now know exactly what's going to happen. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.